Tell us your name and a little bit about yourself.
Okay. My name's Doc O'Neill, and I live in Abingdon, and I've been in this area since 2000. Um, I started playing rugby in 1989 at Appalachian State, and from there I graduated and got a job in Greensboro as a probation officer, a state probation officer. They actually helped me get the job, and played there till 2000. And then when I moved to Abingdon, I knew Johnson City because we used to play against Johnson City some, and I knew it's about a 45-minute drive, but I started playing for them. And I guess my last official game was around 2014 when Johnson City came down here and some of the guys from Richlands, and we played against Asheville, and they beat us 105-5. So,
Oof.
I figured that was it for me.
Yeah.
I was 48, 49 at the time, and just couldn't do what needed to be done anymore. So,
Yeah. I mean, if you've played rugby long enough, you've suffered one of those losses, but you've probably got to win pretty close to that, yeah?
I never lost it to damn Asheville, I could tell you that. But those guys, I mean, in all seriousness, that Asheville team had really, they've developed a good coaching staff, and they had some really talented players. So they worked to Asheville. When I was in Greensboro, Johnson City and Asheville were teams that if you had them on your home schedule, you might as well go ahead and make plans for something else because there was a pretty decent chance they weren't showing up. But when I moved to Johnson, when I started playing for Johnson City, we actually had a good, that changed. We went a period of time, we never canceled a game. We had a good group of guys, and we'd get students from ETSU because they didn't have a team. So we'd always got 4 or 5 young, talented guys who'd come out and really helped us out. So,
yeah, it's awesome. Like, we're definitely trying to get back to that for sure.
Yeah, it's a struggle. I know it's a struggle. You're a small town team. That's all I've ever played my whole career, a small town team. And
yeah,
it's hard to convince people to give up 6 or 7 of their weekends to get beat up and actually pay to get it done. So,
yeah, but
there's no better sport in the world.
Exactly.
I miss those Sunday mornings when I could barely get out of bed. I was so sore. I miss them very badly. I do.
Yes. I'm ready to get back to playing.
Yeah. So I guess it started in 2000 playing.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't remember when the guys from Richlands, Chris Plaster was, he and Jason Walls were big buddies, and Jason Walls came out and started coaching Johnson City, and he and Jason is a student of the game, and now a lot of his ideas I couldn't comply with because I was still kind of old school, and now I wish I could go back, and now that I'm a coach, I wish I could have gone back and paid a little more attention to what he was trying to tell me because he was sort of getting into the modern game.
Yeah.
Then we had some guys from Richlands joined us, a couple guys from Charlotte, and then got some talented local guys, and they just kind of took off from there. So we had about a 5-year run where we were, a force.
Yeah.
To worry about.
That's awesome. We're trying to get back there.
You will.
Yep. I have no doubt.
Well, Emory's got at least 3 local kids that when they graduate, if they get on your team, they're studs.
What was the best part about being with Johnson City Rugby?
Now, I'm gonna say the camaraderie of it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I didn't stay, I was 45 minutes away, and being in law enforcement, I didn't stay and hang out with the guys too much afterwards. That they didn't do anything wrong. It just, being responsible. I was by myself, so trying to get. I want to be able to get home. But just I just really liked that group of guys, and it was fun to show up, have practice, and then have a game and come together. It didn't matter who we were. I mean, in this today's age with all the politics and all the crap going on, it really doesn't matter who you were. If you showed up, put your boots on, we were happy to have you. And I just always liked that atmosphere.
Yeah. Have you been on other teams where it was like that, or?
Yeah, most of my rugby teams have been like that. It didn't. And rugby in the past has always been, it didn't really matter when, of course, nowadays, I think some guys, when it came to, it didn't matter about religion or politics or anything back in the day, and there was, but nowadays it's even more. I mean, we have people different, their sexualities and all. It doesn't matter. They show up again. You're willing to pay money to come off the field of battle, bruised and battered. You're all right with that team. So it's always been that way, and it's always been kind of a rugby just as a community throughout the world. It's like a big fraternity. So that's what I love about it.
Whenever I was in college, the first time we called it a blue collar fraternity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's at Appalachian State. I wasn't part of the fraternity. The rugby team was my family, and we stuck together, had a good time. So
yeah. I know you said that you didn't really like hang out with guys after practice much, but do you still keep in touch with any of the boys on the team?
Yeah. Dixie Dean. Now Dixie Dean played for the U.S. Eagles back in the '90s, and he played for he lived in Bristol, and he played for Johnson City. His cousin Joey Gibson and I played in Greensboro, and then we played in Johnson City together. He was my on these long away games. Joey Gibson was my partner. He's my riding partner. I did all I had to do all the driving, but anyway, he kept me awake with conversation.
Hey, that's important.
Yeah, and then there's Kingsley and Bronco on occasions. Yeah, there's people I still keep in touch with, keep up with.
Yeah, and that was what? When was your last year with Johnson City Rugby and all those boys?
I think it was 2014, 2015. That's about the time Emory and Henry started a club, and I started helping them out some.
Yeah.
And it was hard to do. I tried to play for Johnson City, and I tried to teach I was volunteer at the time, have the Emory guys sort of run their own show, and I would be like an advisor, but I sort of got a little deeper into it. And I've had a knee replacement since 2018. And about that time, my knee was really starting to get to the point where I could run, but I think it was very laborious to watch me get up the field. So
yeah.
And then, but as far as contacts, those boys up in Richlands, Chris Plaster, Kip Reeves, and all those guys, I mean, we're still good friends, and hopefully, I'm trying to get Chris Plaster's son to come to Emory to play rugby. So
yeah.
And if he's anything like his dad, and I say this to Chris all the time, he's one of the best props I've ever played behind. You couldn't, and his throw-ins from the sidelines were one of the best.
That's awesome.
But he is one of the slowest human beings I've ever seen. You might want to cut that out.
No way.
But
awesome.
In all seriousness, you couldn't get a better tactician, man. He was brilliant.
That's awesome. That's always important. I've been a prop for 10 years, so like I pride myself in being able to prop well.
Well, if you ever need some tricks, man, you talk to that guy.
Heck yeah.
With Emory, he helped me with my type 5 at Emory there for a little bit. And, he had them straightened. They were pretty strong when he was helping.
That's awesome. It's crazy how much just like a solid type 5 can affect actually even like the overall game. It's awesome.
Well, see, when I first started, your props didn't have to be that mobile. I mean, but nowadays your type 5 needs to be almost as mobile as your back 3. So, the way the game is, when you watch the pros, those props can run 80 minutes.
Yeah, like they could play 80 minutes. They get subbed at like 60, but it's like, man, it's a long time.
It is.
What is your favorite memory with Johnson City?
Well, I'm going to tell you my favorite memory against Johnson City.
Okay, that'll be a good one.
I don't know if you've ever heard of Boo Thompson.
No.
Boo passed away, 5 years ago, but he was this little guy, and he was always around Johnson City Rugby. And when you heard of Johnson City, you knew Boo. Boo was the guy that came to all parties. He was always there. And, but he was, like I said, he was a little guy. And he wasn't a bad player, but he wasn't fast. He just trudged along. Well, we were playing Johnson City down in Greensboro. And I was the 8-man. And on a penalty play, we had this play where I was supposed to get the ball. So the pack would go one way, do a quick maul, then I would come screaming like the opposite direction. So from maybe right over to the left.
Yeah.
Well, of course, being type 5, they screwed it up. And I got mad, and I go flying up to the maul. I grab the ball, and I'm just kind of going around to the left-hand side, and I can still see Boo's face. He just kind of steps around like he was just trying to peek around and see what was going on. And he was a short guy, and his head hit me about right there. Lights out. I was out cold. First time and last time I've ever been knocked out on the rugby field.
That's awesome.
And I remember coming to, and Boo's standing over top of me, looking at me, and then he goes, "I knocked him out. I knocked him out cold." Arms up. He could have died right there, and he would have died the happiest man you ever seen in his life. And
awesome.
Of course, at the bar, I had to hear all about it. Hey, you all right? So I knocked you out. So when I showed up at Johnson City, he started on me again. But that was probably my favorite Johnson City memory. And then the time when we were with the Crusaders, we went down to Huntsville, Alabama, won that tournament, and I think there's pictures of us holding the trophy, and that was a really good weekend, a lot of fun.
Heck yeah. Oof, man. I love stories like that. Those are awesome.
Oh, yeah. Boo, he was awesome, man. Unfortunately, he passed, got really sick and passed. I guess it's been 6 years now. So
it's always tough, like I've been playing for like 10 years and I've lost a couple guys, and it's always just it's hard.
Yeah.
And on the club too. Like everyone, I don't know. It's you don't I guess you don't really realize how close everyone is until something like that happens.
Yep.
And then like the support is just
Yeah.
unmatched.
Yeah.
Right. Well, in lighter
Yeah.
lighter things. Um you played 8-man, you said.
Yeah, I did.
If anyone is on the fence about playing rugby, what would you say to them or suggest?
What else you doing? I mean, I like to go to the CrossFit gym, and I see these guys. There's a meme, and it says rugby players don't do CrossFit because they don't want to be the best at exercising. But CrossFit is it's to get ready for rugby. It's actually one of the best things you can do. But I always wonder when I look at these guys and it's like, what are you doing? I mean, why not take what you're building and putting your body through and see what it can actually do? Get out there and run, and it does everything CrossFit trains you to do.
Yeah.
And why not get out there and you see these guys, they're full of testosterone, they got their chest stuck out, but there's something about a rugby player who goes out there and puts his body on the line. He's humble because he knows, that getting hit can hurt sometimes, but you do it, you love it. And so if you're on the fence, it's a great way. We've had people never played before in their lives. One guy, we call him Slappy. I'll never forget when he came out. He came out to lose weight, And
I met Slappy.
Slappy, and that's how he got started. He was like, I need to lose some weight, so out to I think I'm gonna play rugby. And Slappy got pretty good at it, man. Yeah, he did well, and he's kind of this big, slow guy, but then he really started studying the game, and Chris Plaster helped him with his propping, and he just really, he was a great teammate, funny, and we always had a good time. But if you're on the fence, if you're looking for just a group to have something in common with and get some exercise, and then that's what I would tell you to do. I mean, if you're not doing anything else, I mean, but you want that camaraderie, and plus you want that contact. I mean, I crave that contact. That's, I played football and went to junior college and held dummies. When I went to App State, I saw, because we always played backyard football. When I saw that, it was like a moth to a flame.
Yeah.
So I could have been a real doctor probably if it hadn't been for rugby. But rugby has been, it really has shaped my life. It really has. I mean, I'm in the career I am because of rugby.
That's awesome.
And I've got a lot of really good friends. I got really good buddies from Greensboro that we still talk. I could call them up if I need anything, and they're there. So
yeah,
it's just I don't know. You have to come out, and people are very hesitant. Football players are very hesitant because there's no pads, but it's just a different kind of hitting. And if you're coached properly, it's not a matter of yards and inches. You just got to bring the guy down before he scores. And there's ways to tackle without getting concussions and getting hit. Your injuries, I think all my years of playing, I had a dislocated elbow, which is a whole nother story, down in Knoxville. And then Hopkinsville, Kentucky, I had a dislocated shoulder where it popped out there. And those are two funny stories that, well, we'll just.
How long did you play for overall? And you only had those two?
Man, let's see. Well, 89 to 2014.
Okay.
You do the math.
Yeah.
I mean, I had
That's a long time.
Twisted ankles, jammed fingers, but I never had any broken bones. Separated shoulder once in a while, but other than that, I think football players and maybe even soccer players have worse injuries.
Oh yeah. Like,
I mean, you have more of a chance of going up to getting hurt at a pickup basketball game. And the difference is if you're fit, if you get yourself fit, you go to practice and you do contact and you work on it, when you step on the field, you're ready. You know it's coming. So.
Yeah. I've been playing for 10 years and I only really hurt my shoulder once. And yeah, I mean, it's good now. I haven't had any issues. Just bought
well,
some.
the game is a lot safer, especially scrums. If you watch how they came together back in the 80s, I mean, it was, I don't know how in the hell the front survived it, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Whenever I started, it was crouch, touch, pause, engage. And I have that as a tattoo right now. And so I've seen most of it, most of the positive changes.
Yeah. When I played, you didn't even have lifting. When I started, you didn't even lift in the line.
Oh, you just put the tallest guy up front?
Yeah, exactly. But, the high tackles, I mean, they're hard on that kind of stuff. And the game's is a lot more dynamic. It's a lot quicker. You're going to have a ruck of maybe two. You want to win a ruck with two or three guys. Back when I started, it just a big old pile. And you could rake and, if some guy was laying on the ball, he got the boot. And that's the difference I see. And you didn't whine about it. If I was cheating in the bottom of the ruck and got a fist, I didn't whine about it. So that's where the game, and thankfully there's not as much fist fighting as it used to be, and which I'm glad. It's stuff, and I was bad. I mean, I was pretty bad about that, getting into it, and but on the other hand, so I'm glad that has cleaned up. But it's been quite a few changes. A lot faster. It's a lot faster. So.
Yeah, it's changing for the good, I think.
Definitely. Oh
yeah. I have two fun questions, like really fun questions. Do you remember any rugby songs?
No.
Said no.
No. And the few I remember, I would dare not say them on the. Another thing that's changed. It was like a fraternity, and you partied. You played hard, and you partied hard, and the other team would stay, and it didn't matter if that game ended in a big brawl or whatever happened. At the end of the game, you shook hands. You shook hands, and then you went to the bar or you went to a party. Now, rugby has cleaned its image up as far as the drinking and the partying, as it should have. Because now you're getting more high school. You go down to Charlotte, Northern Virginia. As a college coach, down in Tennessee, I mean, Tennessee's got a strong high school. Knoxville on down, they got a strong high school league going. And they got some really talented players coming out of Tennessee. I didn't really think much of Tennessee until I started recruiting down there. And it's not, I'll tell you, it's really good.
Oh, yeah.
And I watched the University of Tennessee play the Nashville Men's Club. And University of Tennessee, let me tell you, that's, I mean, well, Emory had to play the University of Tennessee down in Savannah last year. We did our best. That's all I'll say. But it's really them. It's more of a colleges are starting to give scholarships to you know to players and treating it small like Emory. They just saw it as in 2016. They were looking for a sport that would help retain football players or guys like that. That because football would have so many players and not get to play, they would quit and sometimes just leave school.
Mm-hmm.
So they hired me, and we're given some scholarships. They've cut back on that a little bit because the whole school's going to D2, so they've had to redo a lot of things. But still, they Emory and Henry treats us very well.
That's awesome.
And a lot of that's going on. Belmont Abbey and Charlotte. I had several recruits I was working hard on, and they started a program and gave a bunch of scholarship, and they all went there. But that's just an example of how competitive it's getting. And but Emory, rugby had to clean its image up for it to become more of a Main Street sport.
Oh yeah.
The bad part about that is, and down at Emory after a game, a good buddy of mine, Tim Nichols, he'll come and cook. I try to recreate the cleaner version of the two teams, at least breaking bread together afterwards, meeting each other, talking to each other, because you just never know, man. You're in Johnson City now, and you've played against the Asheville guys, for an example, and have a good relationship with them, and you got to move to Asheville. Well, guess what? They know you,
Mm-hmm.
and if you've been a gentleman, you haven't been a jerk, they're gonna love to have you. So it's just you just never know what connections you're gonna make, even with the other team.
Yeah,
so,
it's really awesome social networking.
mm-hmm. Yes.
Like I've been offered jobs before, just from a rugby player from a different team, and
Yep.
I was trying to move, and yeah, it's just opens up a lot of doors. Like you said, like we were talking about earlier, it is a fraternity just in general.
It is.
So yeah, it's cool for sure. Do you think there is a place for some of the social stuff? Because we were talking about cleaning up rugby's image and that, and do you think that the socials are still important? Because
Yeah, and especially for a small town men's club too. That's part of the reason why you get together. There's nothing wrong with afterwards. If you got a bar or a pizzeria or someplace, you invite the other team. You should invite the other team. Say, hey, what guys, you can come over and have some pizza or whatever. And maybe two guys have disagreement on the field and don't like each other. Well, they need to take that. That's where they got to take the moment to sit down. And as you can see in our world today, that's what we're lacking. Not to get political, but we're lacking that.
yeah,
And I see it with these college kids that after a hard fought game, sometimes they're mad and they don't want to go over and converse with the other team. But I make them do it. It's important. And I think a good, a social, you don't have to do Zulus and do stuff like that. You just get together like grown-ups if you want to,
Yeah.
And I think it's very important to do that.
Oh, yeah.
And, and in Johnson City, you got to have you have to keep a decent image to keep in with the city, all those, because they don't want a bunch of hooligans out running around, so.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think the social aspect with the other team, even if it's just buying pizza and having it on the sideline, if that's all you do, at least take the time to. And then we would do man of the match. I think Jason Walls and Chris Plaster would, if I remember correctly, they would get the other team. I've seen this where the other team would pick your team's man of the match. and vice versa. And that was always kind of fun, because then if you got that from the other team, that was great. You know, that was great respect. Yeah, that you actually got that.
Oh yeah, for sure. I don't really have anything else written down. Is there anything else that you would like to talk about? It could be Justin.
If you know, Johnson City's had a long tradition. We've been down. We've been strong. We've been down again. And a lot of the old boys do fade away. And I know it's hard to, you know, once you leave the game, sometimes it's hard to come back, because then you get the itch. So, but if you're looking for a sport, don't be afraid of the sport. The guys there will teach you how to play. It's pretty basic. It can get complicated, but at this level, it's pretty basic. Run straight, set the ruck. You know, if you learn that right there, you're all right. And you'll get a good group of guys who have one common goal, and that's to play rugby. And it doesn't matter who you are. I tell my guys all the time, I don't care if you're black. I don't care if you're white, gay, straight. I don't care if you like to wear a dress. It doesn't matter. You know, I don't care if you're Republican, Democrat. If you're going to come out here and put the work in, you deserve to be on the team, period. And that's all I ever care about. And I think my players have taken hold of that. We've got a different group of guys on our team that probably wouldn't hang out together if it weren't for rugby. And so I think if you're watching this and you're thinking, I don't know if I want to play a sport, man, just get you a pair of cheap soccer cleats and just roll out there and do a couple practices. Don't be afraid of the running. That part scares a lot of people off, but you'll adjust. It'll be all right. So I guess that's all I can say about that.
All right. Well, thank you so much.